Hi everyone, welcome to the 15th video for this playlist where we are solving the top interview 150 list from Leetcode. In this video, we are going to solve the 15th problem from this list. The name of the problem is Candy. It is given that there are n children standing in a line. Each child is assigned a rating given in the integer array ratings. Okay, so you are giving candies to these children subjected to the following requirements. Each child must have at least one candy. Children with a higher rating get more candies than their neighbors. So in this case, these are the ratings of the children. So let's take this example array. So 1, 0, 2. Now here it is said that each child must have at least one candy. So let's give all the childs one candy each. Now in the second scenario, it says children with higher rating get more candies than their neighbors. So since 1 has a higher rating than 0, so this should have more candy than this guy. So let's give him more candies. Then 0 does not have higher rating than their neighbors because both the neighbors are of higher rating. So this does not get more candies. Again, we are at 2. So this has higher rating than its neighbor 0. So this should get more candies. So total would be 5. So in this case, the output is 5. Here, in the second example, same thing. We have 1, 2, 2. And first we give all of them one candies. And then if this child has higher rating than its neighbors, it should get more. So in this case, this 2 has a higher rating than 1. So it should get more candies than 1. So it should get 2 candies. And in this case, 2 does not have a higher rating than its neighbor, so it should not get more candies. So this is fine. So in this case, the total is 4. Okay. So let's try to see what the approach for this problem would be by imagining some test cases. So in case where the ratings are strictly in the increasing order. So let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say this is the rating array. Here we will notice is that every other child would get one more candy than its other neighbor, which has a lower rating. So the first child will get one candy, the second child will get two candies because its rating is higher than this neighbor, and similarly for other elements as well. Now, one more case is that if all the ratings are sorted in the decreasing order, then in this case, this will get one candy. Now, this will also get one candy, but here this has higher rating than this one. So we should update the candies for this guy. Now we go to the next one. We will again give him one candy, but wait, this has more rating than this guy. So we have to update candies again here. So we update more candies. But the moment we do that, we see a break in the constraints where all the elements which are greater than this element behind this will also be violated. So we have to keep going back and update the candies for each of these elements. So we have to update it for 5 and this will get 3 candies. We again go to 2. We give him first one candy because every child should have one candy. And then since this has a higher rating, this should get more candy. So we have to update its candy. Then we have to update the previous candy for this guy. And then we have to update the previous candy for this guy. Finally, we update the candies for the last one. And similarly, we have to update the candies for all the other children whose rating is higher than this one. So we see since we were doing a left to right pass, and when the array was in increasing order or the rating was in increasing order, we were able to distribute the candies in a single pass. But if we try to do the same thing for a decreasing array, we are not able to distribute the candy in the single pass because every time we distribute something, we have to go back to all the positions and update the candies. So in this case, this is n square. We can solve this by simply changing the way we iterate. Is that instead of iterating from left to right, what we can do for this scenario is we can iterate from right to left. So in that case, this would be, let's copy this array again. And when we are iterating from right to left, we give one candy to this guy. And then we come here, we give one candy to this guy. Since this has a higher rating than its neighbor, we get more candy, so 2. Then we can go to this one. Since this is a higher rating than its neighbor, it should get more candy, so this should get 3. Similarly 4 and 5. So in this case, we are able to give the candies in a linear pass. But what happens when the scenario is merged like this? Like we don't have an order in the array, then what do we do? So in that case, my approach would be scan the ratings array from left to right and distribute candies according to the constraint, but only handle the left neighbors. Now, in this case, it doesn't matter that if the array is in ascending order, strict ascending order or not, but all the ascending sequence elements in the input rating array will get more candies than the one for which the rating on the left hand side is lower. Similarly, we can do a second pass. So scan the ratings array again and distribute the candies according to the constraints, but this time only handle the right neighbor. Finally, take a sum of all candies. And this way we can solve this problem in two passes. The time complexity will be O of 2n, and we will be using O of n as extra space. So time complexity would be O of 2n, space complexity will be O of n, because we are using an additional candies array to store the number of candies which will be distributed to each child. So let's quickly go ahead and write the code for this. So int candies is new integer, ratings or length. Let's declare a new array where we will be storing the number of candies distributed to each child. Now it is given that every child must have at least one candy. So we will say arrays dot fill candies with 1, which means we are giving one candy to all the children. Now for I is 1, I is less than candies dot length I plus plus. If so, in the first scan, what we are doing is we are scanning from left to right, and we are distributing the candies if the current child has a rating higher than the left neighbor. So if current child, which is ratings of I, is higher than ratings of I minus 1, which means the current child has higher rating than its left neighbor, then we want to give him more candies than the left neighbor. So candies of I would be candies of I minus 1 and plus 1. So we are giving him more candies than whatever the candies for the left neighbor was. Okay, time for second pass. Now we have to scan the ratings array from right to left and distribute the candies again according to the same constraint. But in this case, we will be handling based on the right neighbor. So let's do that. So for int I is equal to ratings dot length minus 2, I should be greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. So we are starting the iteration from the second index because this guy does not have any neighbor on the right hand side. So we are starting the iteration from second last index. If ratings of I is, now in this case we are taking a look at the right neighbor. So if we have a higher rating at I than the one on the right neighbor, so ratings of I plus 1. So in this case we have to update the candies of this child again. Now here we have to give him more candies than his right neighbor. So candies of I plus 1 plus 1. So whatever the candies his right neighbor has, more than that. Now in any case, if we have a scenario where this child already has more candies than its right neighbor plus 1, then we don't want to update this to a lower value. So we are taking a max of whatever the candies was already distributed to him, and whatever the higher is from the right neighbor plus 1, and whatever the candies this guy already had. Finally, we have to return total candies. Now in order to calculate total candies, we have to again iterate over this candies array and take a sum. I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna take a sum here only. So I'm gonna set the sum as the candies at the last index of the candies array, and then after processing that I'm just gonna increment sum with the candies of I. So this will have the total candies. Let me just rename the variable, and this is how the code should look like for the approach we discussed over here. So let's try to run this code and see if we can pass the test cases. So as you can see, we are able to pass the test cases. So let's go ahead and try to submit this code. Now we are getting an accepted solution. So in this video, we tried to solve the problem Candy, which is the 15th problem from the top interview 150 list.